Dr. Bharat Pankhania, who is a senior clinical researcher over at the University of Exeter Medical School. Good to have you on the show as usual, Mr. Pankhania. All right, you know, the health minister was mentioning that it was perhaps the most challenging year in a generation. But, you know, I want to take you back a year. I mean, the Prime Minister had initially resisted pressure from scientists. He finally bowed in and then agreed to a national lockdown a year ago. You know, at the time, the main question that was being asked was it, was it too little, too late? Looking at where we are today, how much difference would have made?
It would have made a big difference, and it is extremely disappointing and upsetting to know that had we acted faster, harder, more strictly, we would have been in a better position today. The biology of the virus is very clear. Once it has been introduced into a population, it becomes extremely difficult to control. And unfortunately for us in the United Kingdom and in Europe, we have always been playing catch up. That has been the big problem. And even now, we are not on top of it, we are catching up. So if you look at South Korea, Australia, New Zealand, and other Far Eastern countries, they've done much better than ourselves. And that's because we took delayed action.
You talked about, the UK always playing catch up. A year ago, the Prime Minister had said, there were no really easy options. And, the path ahead, the way ahead was always going to be hard. In your opinion, what could have been done differently?
Well, we could have addressed the borders to begin with. It's only now, so late in the day, that we are even considering a quarantine of red-listed countries. And even that red-listed countries quarantine is not a proper operation. So we could have controlled our borders. We could have set up test and trace. It is no good to tell me that, but we tested so many hundreds of thousands per day. That's pointless. You need to test and at the same time, simultaneously trace. And the mistake that we made was to set up a private enterprise to do the testing and the tracing. Whereas if you look at the example of when we set up the immunization campaign, we allowed the local authorities, the local National Health Service, the local people to do the local operation. And that has worked very well. Now that the local authorities are also doing the tracing, we are much better than the central operation of testing and tracing. So those were the mistakes we made to begin with.
Okay, tell me this, Doctor, because you said that some certain mistakes have been made. Has the UK learned from its mistakes? Because the Prime Minister has recently said that a third wave could possibly be washing up on the shores of the UK, looking at what's going on the European continent. I'm wondering, in your opinion, how does the first two waves of the pandemic compare to a possible third wave that might be coming on? Because right now we have multiple vaccines that are on the market. We have multiple variants as well.
So with respect to a surge in number of cases in Europe, it inevitably means that we will also have a rise in number of cases, especially after lifting the lockdown measures. What will be different is that the sensitive, the vulnerable population has been immunized or semi-immunized. Therefore, what will be very interesting to watch is bed occupancy. How many people end up in hospital and for how long, and what are they presenting with? I hope that many people will not present to hospital, end up in ITU on the ventilator and die. The picture will be different because we have been immunizing the vulnerable population. But nevertheless, they may occupy a lot of beds in the hospital. Only time will tell how this works out.
Dr. Bharat Pankhania, always a pleasure having you on. I learn a great deal every time I have you on. Thank you very much.